All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are diving right into a classic Thai delicacy with a name that seriously packs a punch: Galloping Horses, or Mahor. If you're the kind of person who loves geeking out over the deep, historical mechanics behind vibrant cuisines, well, you are in for a real treat today. We're going to break down the exact traditional steps to craft a perfect bite of culinary history.
So, what is Mahor? It's basically an absolute masterclass in contrasting flavors and textures. The whole thing relies entirely on a really delicate dance between two totally different profiles. You've got an incredibly rich, salty, and sweet pork filling resting right on top of a bracingly sour piece of fruit. It is literally meant to wake up your palate, and honestly, when it's crafted correctly, it's just unforgettable.
Here's how we're going to break it all down today. We'll start with the art of mahor, move on to the essential ingredients and fruits, check out the cooking process for that savory filling, look at a really cool technique for perfecting the dry texture, and finally, wrap it up with fruit prep and assembly. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the art of mahor. This dish hinges on one brilliant culinary concept, which is contrasting a super heavy, rich topping with a bright, acidic foundation. Think about it. On one hand, you have a filling packed with massive umami from fish sauce, the earthy sweetness of palm sugar, and that savory pork. Now, if you ate that completely on its own, it would be overwhelmingly intense, right? But that bright, tart fruit base acts like a built-in palate cleanser right in the middle of the bite. It is just such an ingenious way to manage those culinary extremes. Moving right along to Section 2, essential ingredients and fruits. Okay, so here are your core ingredients. Notice how remarkably simple this lineup is. We have our standard savory base with minced pork and garlic, which gets seasoned heavily with fish sauce and palm sugar. Then we've got coarsely pounded roasted peanuts, and trust me, those are going to be a major player in a few minutes. Finally, we have our fruit canvas. Traditionally, you'd use things like tangerine, pineapple, or pomelo. But what's really fun is you can totally experiment with modern tart fruits like Western apples or crisp guavas, as long as they fit one very specific requirement. And here is that golden rule. You absolutely do not want a sweet fruit here. For real, acidity is vital to cut through the heavy pork and sugar. If you were to use a very ripe, overly sweet tangerine, the entire dish would just fall flat and become super cloying. The source material heavily emphasizes that you need that sour punch. Honestly, it's the acidity that makes these galloping horses actually gallop across your taste buds. All right, let's head to the stove for Section 3, cooking the savory filling. The technique here is literally all about layering. You want to start by frying your garlic in a generous amount of oil, because that oil is going to carry all the flavor. Once the garlic gets nice and golden and crispy, you drop in the palm sugar. The trick is you want to see the sugar actually melt, bubble, and sort of swell up in the hot oil before you even think about adding the minced pork. That caramelization step right there, that's exactly where you build that deep, complex background sweetness. Now here's a massive pro tip from the source material. Burnt garlic will completely destroy the delicate balance of this appetizer. And palm sugar, it burns incredibly fast. So if you notice your stove is running just a bit too hot, don't panic. Literally just physically lift the pan off the heat source. It is such a simple analog way to control your cooking temp and save your ingredients. And the why behind a specific frying technique is actually super fascinating. Think about raw garlic. It would just dominate your palate and totally mask those subtle fruit flavors we worked so hard to pick out. By frying it until it's perfectly golden, you mellow it right out, transforming it into the sweet, savory aromatic that plays incredibly nicely with the sour base. Next up is Section 4, perfecting the dry texture. So, picture this. You've been simmering your pork, sugar, and fish sauce for about 5 to 10 minutes. The pork has released its juices, the sugar has melted, and you are staring down at a dark, wet, bubbling sauce. But wait, this filling has to sit neatly on a tiny piece of fruit. A wet sauce is just going to slide right off the fruit and onto your shirt. We need this thing perfectly dry. How do we do it? Boom! Adding coarsely ground roasted peanuts is the culinary magic trick that instantly solves our texture problem. You literally just toss them right into the pan while the mixture is still bubbling away over low heat. It's wild how this single ingredient totally saves the day, structurally and flavor-wise. The peanuts act like a giant culinary sponge, soaking up all that excess liquid. But they do a second job too. Since you've seasoned this mixture so aggressively with fish sauce and sugar,
The peanuts actually mellow out and soften those harsh, salty, sweet edges, bringing the whole flavor profile into beautiful balance. From here, you just keep stirring it on low heat until it binds into a sticky paste, and then set it aside to cool completely.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Fruit Prep and Assembly. We've got another really smart practical tip here for handling the fruit. You have to be gentle. If you peel a tangerine first and then try to slice it, you are pretty much guaranteed to crush those delicate segments. But by keeping the protective outer skin on during the initial slicing, the fruit totally maintains its structural integrity. Once your fruit is safely sliced into those nice, thick rounds, grab a knife and carefully trim away the rind. You can actually get pretty creative here. Leave them as circles, or trim them into neat squares, or even octagons for a super refined look. Once it's all cut and meticulously seeded, you can go ahead and start shaping that cooled, peanut-thickened filling into neat little spheres. Just think about how beautifully these two flavor worlds come together. You have the vibrant, translucent foundation of the fruit, topped off by the dense, rustic, caramelized crown of the pork ball. The contrast is everywhere. It's in the flavor, it's in the texture, and it's even in the visual weight of the ingredients. The actual assembly is super delicate. You just gently press the meatball down so it adheres nicely to the fruit. But we aren't quite done yet. The absolute final touch is a slice of red chili, and it isn't just there for heat. It creates a stunning visual contrast that makes the dish look exactly as good as it tastes. When you look at the final platter, it's a vibrant palette of colors. The bright yellow or orange of the fruit, the deep, rich brown of the pork, that striking red from the chili, and maybe a pop of green if you add a coriander leaf. It's literally a feast for the eyes before you even take a bite. Man Bahar is such a brilliant exercise in flavor and structural harmony. By mastering this caramelized base, that genius peanut drying technique, and really respecting the acidic bite of the fruit, you've just learned the core secrets of traditional Thai flavor balancing. So the next time you're enjoying your favorite complex dish, ask yourself, what invisible culinary mechanics are holding all those flavors together? Thanks for hanging out for this explainer, and definitely keep exploring.